Welcome back, From Fans. I'm going to be real for a second. If you watch the show, you know the kind of pain I'm about to talk about. The red yarn on the corkboard kind of pain. And I know you've been there. You get your red yarn out, you cover your wall like a totally sane person would, and you finally think you've nailed it. You sit back, you drop the mic and say, solved it. It's fairies. And then the very next episode airs, and suddenly there's a reference to Gnosticism, some obscure Catholic ritual. The Hand of Fatima pops up, a Civil War soldier shows up, and your entire theory, it just evaporates. And it's maddening. But here's where it gets really interesting for my deep dive today. What if the confusion is actually the point? What if it's baked right in? Because I don't think this is one single mythology at all. It's like you've been trying to read a book that's written in 5 different languages simultaneously. The show isn't trying to hide a specific, easy to answer thing like it's aliens or it's purgatory. It's constructing what I'm calling a syncretic spiritual prison. Now, that sounds terrifying and a little academic, so let me quickly unpack it. Syncretic just means blending different religions, mythologies, and ancient rules and creating something entirely new. Think of it like the ultimate crossover event. A bit of Buddhism, a dash of Christianity, you mix in some folklore, and you get one giant, terrifying from smoothie. For the characters, this means the trap isn't just a physical electric fence or a Severance style office floor. It is a metaphysical cage designed specifically to hold consciousness and, more importantly, trauma, which we know the characters in From have in spades. But the coolest part, there may actually be a blueprint for this prison. To understand the reset nature of this town, the cycles, the monsters, the symbols, I had to look at the foundation. My theory is that one of the main faith concepts From is built on is the Tibetan Buddhist Wheel of Life, or the Bhavachakra. And if you're saying, Chris, what about all the other faiths? Don't worry, we're working on videos to go over those as well. I am talking about a massive, complex map of existence, suffering, and rebirth. It's essentially the source code for the town's reality. And if you think about it, a circle, a wheel, it makes perfect sense as the map. It symbolizes why these people can drive from any direction and still find the on ramp to this place, why they can drive forever and still be in a loop. And I'll start with where exactly these characters are. The physical rules of the town seem to operate under the concept called the Bardo. Now, you've probably heard this term before. Usually, people think it just means the waiting room between death and rebirth, basically purgatory with a cooler name. But that is actually a common misconception. In Tibetan Buddhism, a bardo is any intermediate state. It could be the gap between waking and sleeping, a meditative state, or, and this is the key, a major life shift where your identity is in complete flux. So, why does this matter? Because the entity running this place targets people who are already in a life bardo. They are in an emotional liminal space. Every single person who saw that fallen tree was in a gap moment in their life. So, the Matthews family, mid divorce, trying to salvage a broken family. They're dealing with the death of an infant. They weren't even a family unit on that trip, they were just broken pieces. Boyd, just retired, dealing with a massive identity shift. Sarah, she was fleeing an abusive situation, leaving one life for a new life. And Jade, he just sold his company. He was in that what now phase of extreme wealth with zero purpose. They were all spiritually untethered, and the town acted like a magnet. And then there is what happens when they get knocked out in town. We've seen Ethan have a seizure or Julie go into a trance state. This would be a dream bardo. When a character falls unconscious, the illusion of the physical town just drops away. Consciousness actually separates from the physical body and they start seeing the actual architecture of the trap. It would be like riding Space Mountain at Disney with the lights on. The space magic is entirely gone and you just see the machinery. And that's why Ethan saw the Lake of Tears and the giant spider in Victor's room. He wasn't hallucinating. He was seeing the structural reality of the prison. So, if the Bardo is the where, the Wheel of Life is the map. And this is where the math starts to get spooky. The Bhakavakara has a very specific structure involving numbers 3, 6, and 12, while the number 8 is for the Wheel of Dharma. And wouldn't you know it, these exact numbers are represented in the show, and you've seen them before. Now, Victor really is the historian of this place. His drawings are a trauma response, but they are also literal blueprints. Let's start with the number 6. The Buddhist wheel depicts 6 realms of existence: gods, demigods, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and hell beings. And now that I say it out loud, maybe the animal realm is where these mystery animals have been showing up from the whole time. Anyway, Oddly enough, Victor has drawings that mimic this design. Now let's run through these drawings. One is the 6-spoke wheel based on the playground equipment in town, which aligns perfectly with these 6 faraway trees. There's also another drawing that Ethan's holding of the underground spider web with 6 sections. And this one feels extra spot on because you're stuck on the wheel, just like you're stuck on a spider web. Then there's the vinyl record hanging in Victor's room, which is also broken down into 3 different size circles. It's depicting 6 homes around a central hub with some sort of electric power source pulsing from the middle. It almost feels like a schematic for the town itself, but the smoking gun for me is the Ferris wheel drawing. Because the Ferris wheel is a dead ringer for a real life Ferris wheel display used for worship located in Vietnam, in a cave called the Ah Fu Cave, also known as the Hell Cave. Not convinced yet? That's okay. Keep listening. There's more. Okay, so we have the 6 realms. What about the number 8? In Buddhism, we have also what's called the Wheel of Dharma, which represents the Noble Eightfold Path, basically the prescription for ending your suffering. And structurally, it's represented by the wheel with 8 spokes. And for anyone who watched Lost, you know these raiders love some Dharma. And if you look close, you can see the floor of the lighthouse is laid out just like the Dharma logo. Now, think about the playground again. Sarah and Ethan were spinning on an 8-spoke spinner. The same spinner that the boy in white vanished on when calling Victor over after the massacre. And I went back and I looked at the talismans just to double check, and there are 8 outer symbols surrounding the central duality symbols. Even the mystery spiders in the town reflect this with their 8 legs. It's a reoccurring pattern, enforcing the number 8, representing the path characters need to find. Alright, we're moving on to 12. The outer ring of the Buddhist wheel features 12 links of why human beings suffer. And in the show, there are exactly 12 unique talismans. Now, this is confirmed by the production designer Matt Lakely during an interview. Smoking gun? Maybe, maybe not, but it's a heck of a coincidence. So we have the structure, 6 realms, 8 paths, 12 links. But what is powering the wheel? What actually makes it spin? Because a prison needs an engine. At the center are the 3 poisons, a pig for ignorance, a snake for anger, and a bird for attachment. And in the town, we have 3 poisons too. The nursery rhyme, they touch, they break, they steal. They touch is attachment, the bird. They break, anger, the snake. And they steal is ignorance, the pig. Now, they didn't use the same language. That might be a bit too obvious. But if we were to put a face on each poison, I would say Randall is the snake with anger, Marielle is the bird for attachment and addiction, and Julie is the pig, denial and ignorance. They are literally feeding the engine of the town, which is why we saw all of them chained up and very terrified when they were in the dungeon. They are trapped because of these internal poisons. And remember how the rhyme ends. No one here is free, right? That's the hard truth of the wheel. Everyone is trapped on it, even the monsters. So what about the monsters? Everybody's favorite part. What are they and how do they fit into this theory? Well, they align well with the concept of pretas, or hungry ghosts. Rebirth as a preta is the result of extreme jealousy, stinginess, or greed in a previous life. You know, the sacrificing kids for eternal life kind of greed. The point is they are craving what they can't have. For instance, remember when Christy autopsied Smiley? His insides were dry, shriveled, filled with dust. You ever notice what the monsters rip out when they kill somebody? Almost like they're trying to steal what they lost. And don't forget what Jasmine told our very desperate friend before the Colony House massacre. They're stuck here too. They're inmates in the prison, just like everybody else. One last point to drive this home. Predators are often believed to dwell among humans, though they remain invisible to the naked eye. With a very little bit of creative licensing, remain invisible to the naked eye could easily be hide their true form from humans until they really want to show it. Now, let's talk about the big players, the cosmological figures. We have the boy in white and the man in yellow. How do they fit into the Buddhist wheel? Well, outside the wheel, traditionally you often see a figure representing the moon or the Buddha, and their job is pointing the way to liberation. That is the boy in white in this theory. His white clothes, his ghostly aura parallels well with the moon, and he literally points the way in the show. He represents nirvana, or at least the path to find it. He is the only thing in town that seems to be offering an exit ramp, a ramp that Christopher didn't take when he had the chance. But the moon doesn't operate alone. On the other side of the sky, we have the sun, and in this case, the great sun Buddha is represented by the lighthouse. In Buddhist cosmology, the sun represents a brightness of the mind that touches everything. It doesn't pick or choose, they're impartial. It's a constant spinning reminder that the wisdom is available to everybody trapped in the wheel, or in this case, the town. It's supposed to be a beacon for the lost. It's actually the source of Dharma. And we just mentioned about how the floor of the lighthouse looks exactly like the wheel of Dharma itself. So it makes sense that the light would be above it. And to nail this down a little harder, the playground spinner, the other 8-spoked Dharma wheel we see in the show, has a sun logo directly in the center of it too. The lighthouse is about rising above the cycle. Tabitha had to physically climb to reach the top of the lighthouse, seeing and hearing things all along the way to stop her. She literally had to climb above the wheel. Think of it like at the end of the Truman Show when he found the staircase to climb out of the dome and get into the real world. Now, here's the most important part. Unlike the physical sun that sets every evening, the sun Buddha's light is eternal. It's always there, it's the absolute truth. Whether it's high noon, dead of night, that lighthouse is shining. It doesn't care about the darkness, it exists totally independent of it. And that's exactly why the boy in white is so obsessed with getting Christopher and Tabitha there. He's not just sending them to a creepy tower, he's guiding them to the exit of the cycle. But what happens when someone tries to actually take the exit? Well, enter the man in yellow, or for the purposes of this theory, Mara. If the lighthouse is the GPS, Mara is the guy intentionally giving you the wrong direction so you stay lost. In Buddhist cosmology, he is the deceiver. Think of Mara as the Mephisto from Marvel. When the Buddha was trying to hit enlightenment, Mara threw everything at the wall monsters, temptations, disasters just to break his focus. Mara's whole vibe is to keep you stuck. He uses fear, doubt, your own baggage to keep you glued to the wheel, like the spider web. He doesn't need to kill you, he just needs to keep you distracted. The music box, the hallucinations, the gut wrenching manipulations of hope and then getting it yanked away. This is all textbook Mara. He wants everyone focused on their trauma, so they never realize they actually have the power to walk away, the power to change. It's a psychological prison, like we talked about, and he's the warden holding the keys. So, how do they actually get out? I realize it's not about mapping wires or finding a physical key. You have to change. You have to kill the ego. This is where that terrifying vision Jade had comes into play, the one where he sees a settler drinking blood from a skull. It's actually very specific. In Tibetan Buddhism, there is a ritual object called a Kabbalah, which is a cup made from a human skull. And drinking it isn't about being evil, it symbolizes the destruction of the ego. You're essentially consuming your own poisons, your attachment, your ignorance to achieve detachment, and Jade is the perfect candidate for that lesson. He is defined by his hubris. It's why we love him and why we hate him. He thinks he can outsmart the town. He thinks his intellect is the ultimate weapon. He pretty much treats everyone else in town like an NPC in his own personal video game. But the town may be forcing him to confront the idea that his ego is actually what's keeping him trapped. It's like it's trying to force him to evolve, but in the most traumatizing way possible. Which now leads us the other direction. The town messes with their heads. That's obvious. We have ourselves a battle of the melodies going on, the music box versus the violin. But before we dive into it, for some reference, in Buddhism, there's the concept of karmic winds. These are sounds that howl and taunt to keep the soul in a state of panic so it can't grow, it can't find the exit. Let's start with the music box. Every time it plays, things go horribly wrong. It's a psychological torture. It creates this frantic energy where they can't think, only react. It is the engine of the prison. The creepy ballerina spinning is just another representation of the cycle continuing, the wheel going round and round. And the jukeboxes in the diner, they get in on the fun too. Poor Kenny. They play songs that really bust his chops, but the fact is they play songs that manipulate emotions so they can keep the characters off balance and they can't think clearly. They're so angry and bothered. It's noise designed to specifically prevent reflection, which is what they need. But then you have Jade's violin. The music notes that were left cycle after cycle to help kickstart their memories. In Buddhism, this would be a mantra. It's a frequency that cuts through the delusion, through the sounds the karmic winds are making. When Jade played that melody, it acted like a tuning fork for the truth. It cleared the fog instantly and allowed past memories to just flood in. And this isn't the first time we've seen this. Remember when Joni Mitchell's Blue was playing in the car and Tabitha had a connection? It's both Tabitha and Miranda's favorite song. The music is important. It's a sensory compass for navigating all the dormant memories. Also, for being honest, the LSD Miranda took probably didn't hurt either. So, how did they actually get out? It's not about solving a puzzle. You can't just find the right key or map the electrical wires or blow up the tunnels. You have to change for the better each cycle. You have to cultivate wisdom and selflessness. Think back to Kenny's sweater analogy to Christy. They're just one thread in a large sweater. And he makes the point that what they do today may not help them get out, but it might help the next group get out. He just doesn't know that he's part of the next group. The only way to break the loop is to stop acting for yourself. If everyone acts out of greed, anger, and fear, the wheel keeps on turning. But an act of pure selflessness, that might be the glitch that crashes the entire system. How they do this, we don't know. We got 2 seasons left, hopefully. But it really reframes the whole show. I'm basically watching a spiritual boot camp. If the characters heal their trauma, who knows what may happen. All right, hopefully your red yarn board makes a little more sense now. Or maybe I just added 6 more strings to it. Sorry about that. Either way, at least the strings are organized. Thanks for diving in with me. And if you like the video, consider subscribing, leaving a like, or even sharing with someone else who has a lot of red yarn. It really helps us out and we appreciate it. Until next time, stay sleuthy.